Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome back to the Psychology of a Femcel series. I just wanted to say I love the diversity on this channel. I love how this community has basically become kind of like a think tank. So all of us are able to kind of exchange ideas. I love experimenting with new series on this channel. So if you have any other ideas or things you want me to talk about, you can let me know in the comments section because I love switching it up. It helps me to not get burnt out and stuff. But when it comes to the psychology of a femcel, I want to talk about how femcells are created. I want to talk about what their emotional wounds are because I've just been nerding out this morning. I'm sitting here with my coffee. I was kind of reading up on it. And I feel like there are a lot of similarities with the experiences we have had as pretty women. So one of the core parts of these quote unquote femcells is they definitely have a hatred for high status women. So any woman that has more social status than her, you could be privileged in some way. Maybe you're pretty, maybe you're desirable, maybe you're wealthy, maybe you're living a softer life than her. And I want to talk about this subject because a lot of you guys have been raised by femcel mothers. Maybe you have a femcel sister or cousin or enemy. Somebody's trying to sabotage you because she's like a femcel. I've also noticed, strangely enough, a lot of femcel women tend to get into witchcraft or religion or, something that will give them a sense of power. So that's another interesting dynamic I've noticed over the past couple of weeks as I've been kind of studying up on this. But let's start off by talking about what I mean when I use the term femcel, because some of you guys are like, oh, femcells don't exist. They're voluntarily celibate. It's not like they're involuntary. Okay, I understand that, but femcel is the closest word that I can use to kind of describe what I'm talking about. So when I use that term on this channel, I'm talking about a woman who is actually very male-centered. She's very male-centered. This is the type of woman who deifies men. She puts men on a pedestal, or she has been brainwashed to be male-centered, maybe because of her background. Like I've noticed, for example, some women who are more likely to be brainwashed into being male-centered are religious women. If you were raised in maybe a Southern type of background or those old timers, the baby boomers who believe that oh, the man's the head of the household or, it's all about getting a man, it's all about getting marriage. So a lot of women who become femcells, they actually come from these homes where there have been generations of male-centeredness. Male-centeredness is actually a generational curse, in my opinion, because if you're coming from generation after generation after generation of pickmes, obviously that's going to do something to your psyche. So a lot of femcells, they've actually been raised by pickmes. Their mother was a pickme, or their grandma, or whoever raised them was more of a pickme. And some examples of this are, the women that get pregnant by a guy because they really wanted the guy to pick her. I'm not talking about the women who have children because they actually wanted children. No, I'm talking about the women who specifically had a baby so they could try to get the man to stay. Some women are raised by mothers like that. She created you because she was hoping that your dad would stay. And then he didn't, he still left. And so now she is resentful. One of the top qualities of a woman with a femcel mindset is she's resentful. And the reason she's resentful is because, number one, she's been lied to. She's been lied to about the nature of men. She's not very aware of what men are really like. She deifies men. She puts them on a pedestal. So she tends to view men as kind of like this savior figure. And you can tell because they're constantly in waiting mode. It's almost like they're waiting for a man to come sweep them off their feet. They're waiting for this knight in shining armor. They're waiting for this tall black man, this mandingo type of man. They're waiting for a Fabio to come and kind of save them from their own emotional turmoil. So one of the top qualities of a femcel that I've noticed since studying them is that they use men and they use relationships as a form of escapism. So if you think about the women who are pickmes who try to get pregnant so the man will stay, what they're doing is they're trying to use that pregnancy as a form of emotional escapism. So they're hoping that by getting pregnant that the man starts thinking about family and future and, they're hoping that it will change his mindset. And obviously, in a lot of cases, the man will still leave. And so she will have this daughter. Some of you guys are the daughters of mothers like this. And then she'll be resentful because she felt like, I thought having this kid would mean that he was going to stay. I thought we were going to have a family. So she's in this constant state of disappointment. And then if you want to top it off, like another thing I've noticed, another layer is that a lot of men, they have a tendency to shame single mothers. So not only did she not get what she wanted in terms of relationships, that's one of the main qualities of a femcel. She never gets the relationship she wants. She's unable to attract that to herself. But then on top of that, now she is going through societal shame. She's being shamed for being a single mother. Don't even get me started on if she's black. If she's African American, we all know that in the African American community especially, a lot of people have this hatred for single mothers. They feel like you kind of failed, or they feel like you're carrying on this generational curse or whatever. So women who have this femcel mindset, there's this overarching theme of experiencing rejection. They've experienced rejection not just romantically, but also socially. Not to mention the fact that some of these women, they struggle financially, especially if they didn't get child support, for example. So some of you ladies on this channel, you might have been raised by a femcel mother, or your grandmother could have been a femcel, because one of the ways that femcels lash out is they try to destroy the futures of other women. They hate to see a woman who has hope, a pretty young lady who is just enjoying her youth. You know how teenagers and girls in their early 20s, you know how they're kind of carefree and they just, they may not be good with money or whatever. The femcel type of woman, she wants you to know that your life is going to be hard. These are the type of women who have this mindset of, I suffered, so you have to suffer. So oftentimes the way they lash out is they try to sabotage other women. They do not view other women as their sisters. They don't know how to have a sisterhood, basically. So maybe your own sister had kind of a femcel mindset, or maybe she struggled with that. Maybe you have women in your family, aunties, cousins, co-workers. Maybe you have women around you who struggle with this femcel mindset. And one of the ways you can tell is they're very bad at sisterhood, because they think that other women are their competition. So they're always in this invisible competition so they can overcome rejection. These are the women who have literally experienced hundreds, if not thousands, of micro rejections. I just made up that word. They've experienced micro rejection ever since childhood. So maybe it started off when she was a kid. She got made fun of for her skin tone, her hair texture, her weight, her face, her nose, whatever it is. She started off getting made fun of. That's a form of micro rejection. And then maybe in her teenage years, maybe she was raised by a pick-me mother who didn't get picked. And so she became like this femcel in a way. And then she kind of carries on that generational curse. She never got to feel like a princess. She never got to be Miss Popular. And part of how you know that a woman is a femcel is because when she grows up, she has such horrible PTSD from being rejected to the point where she will be constantly talking about how many times she was rejected when she was a child. She'll make talking points like, oh, well, nobody ever liked me, or I wasn't popular, or everybody hated me. Or they'll try to project it onto you. Everybody hates you. Nobody wants you because you're dark-skinned. Nobody wants you because you're black. Nobody wants you because you're plus size. So they try to project it onto you because that was actually their experience. So if you ever want to know if somebody has a femcel mindset, just listen to them talk. Let her talk, and she will expose herself eventually. One of the core emotional wounds of a woman who becomes a femcel is this feeling of not being good enough. So it's almost like they had to earn the love of other people. So this is why you see some women who are paying for men. The cougars, like sometimes it'll be a super old, unattractive woman who's paying for this young man. She's paying all his bills. He gets to live in her house. She's desperately flirting with him. Why? Well, it's because she's insecure about her social status. Women who have a femcel mindset, they struggle with hierarchy thinking, and they have a lot of internalized misogyny. So they might believe that being older makes them less valuable. So they feel like youth gives you a higher form of social status. This is why you see some old women who are desperate for younger men, because they idolize youth. They pedestalize youth. and they're competing with younger women in a lot of cases. So that's why, like, have you ever been around a woman where she will try to sleep with her daughter's boyfriend? She'll try to sleep with her own daughter's boyfriend. Or she will try to sleep with, some of the younger cousins' husbands or something like that. Or she specifically goes out of her way to try to get a younger man who's already taken by a younger woman. Well, that woman, she has struggled with a femcel mindset, meaning she's an extreme pick-me who never got picked. And so now she's thinking that because she's older and wiser and more experienced, now she wants to try to, quote unquote, take the man of this younger woman because it makes her feel relevant. It makes her feel more important, the fact that she was able to compete with a 25-year-old and then she's 55. Have you ever met those women at work, the older women who have a hatred for younger women? Why do some of them naturally hate women who are younger than them? Well, it's because another emotional wound of a femcel is that she didn't know how to play the game of life. She didn't know how to social climb. She was bad at leveling up because she came from a generationally cursed background where maybe, all of the women in her family were leveled down. And so she never learned how to level up. So she gets upset when she sees a young, beautiful woman leveling up. This is why you've got women who will be Karens in the workplace. They will try to send emails trying to sabotage you. And I know that you guys may be thinking, like, what does that have to do with men? Well, it has a lot to do with men because if a woman is extremely male-centered, she's going to have a dislike for any woman who is desirable in the eyes of men. Any woman who has any sort of privilege with men, whether it's colorism, texturism, featureism privilege, pretty privilege, thin privilege, having a nice body, whatever it is, anyone who has privilege with men that she did not have, she is going to resent that. So a lot of you guys are thinking like, oh, well, maybe this lady at my job is just jealous of my looks. It's not that she's just jealous of your looks. It's that she's jealous of the hope that you have. She's jealous of the potential that you have. She's jealous that you have your whole life ahead of you. And this is why you see some bitter mothers, like femcel mothers and stuff, or grandmothers who refuse to help their kids go to college. They refuse to buy their kids clothes or to teach their younger sisters and younger family members how to take care of themselves. They don't want to invest in you in any way. And some of them will go out of their way to try to sabotage you because they felt sabotage themselves. One of the biggest emotional wounds of the femcel, besides the rejection thing, is feeling like she is cursed. That's actually a very common theme that I've noticed as I've been kind of studying the femcel content and watching them and stuff. A lot of them really feel like they've been cursed. In fact, some of them will even say it. They will say, oh, I was cursed with this phenotype, or I was cursed with this body, or I was cursed with not being desirable, or I'm ugly and I'm invisible. They have that wound of feeling invisible. They have the wound of feeling overlooked. So whenever these types of women try to sabotage you, like in the workplace, for example, it's not just about them being jealous of your appearance. It's about the fact that you're not being overlooked. That's a very deep core emotional wound that a lot of femcels have. So they literally will get jealous over someone who is simply more visible than them. So let's say you're doing a good job in the workplace, you're getting recognized. Oh no, that's going to trigger her inferiority complex. She's going to be extremely jealous because how dare you be visible when I've worked at this job for 15 years and nobody sent an email thanking me. Nobody ever wanted me. So there's this constant, it's almost like this resentful spirit. You know how some people say, oh, well, she's a bitter baby mama, or, she's a hater. Well, a lot of the bitterness and being a hater, that comes from her being rejected. She feels like it's not fair. That's not fair that you were born pretty and she wasn't. It's not fair that you got the relationship and she didn't. It's not fair that you have a nice body or you have a nice mindset. You're able to level up. You got to go to college and she didn't. So there's this deep-rooted self-hatred that a lot of femcels have. It's like they have a lot of pent-up anger. It's very similar to an incel. It's like the female version. But they have a lot of pent-up anger, not just against men, but also against pretty women. Women who they feel are quote-unquote alpha females. A lot of women don't even use that term. They don't use the term alpha females. But I'll just say they have a lot of bitterness against quote unquote bad bitches, if that makes sense. calling someone a bad bitch is kind of similar to the concept of an alpha male. Like, oh, well, she's the bad bitch. She's the pretty girl. She's the prom queen. She's the cheerleader. So the women who are these like femcel types, they never qualified socially to be the cheerleader. They've suffered from low social status their entire lives. And by the way, that's the last person you would want to take level up advice from. I'm just trying to make that clear. A lot of women who are leveled down, they can't tell you how to level up. Have you ever noticed that it's always the most leveled down women who suddenly want to be an expert on your life? Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever had a family member where maybe you look cute and you're going out and then she wants to tell you, oh, you're wearing too much makeup. Oh, your outfit doesn't look good. Oh, those colors don't go together. That hairstyle doesn't look good on you. And it's like, what would you know? You've never had a cute hairstyle your entire life. You've always been rejected based on your hairstyles. You've always been rejected based on your phenotype or your beauty or whatever. So why should I listen to you for advice? But the women who have this femcel type of experience, because they've been so invisible, their entire childhood, their teenage years, they've been invisible. So a lot of them will do anything to become visible. That includes desperately chasing after men, kind of like that cougar phenomenon. Your mom is trying to sleep with your boyfriend or something like that. Your aunties are trying to flirt with your boyfriend. So desperation, that's one of the ways they act out, because they just get so tired of not being noticed. Did you know that there are actually studies that show that if a person does not have enough human interaction, they will go mentally insane? There are actual studies and articles that support that talking point. So these women who have kind of this femcel experience, because they've experienced so much social rejection, they become extremely lonely. So that's the next emotional wound of this femcel type of woman. She's extremely lonely, not just when it comes to romance and all that, but also even when it comes to her own friendships. She's very lonely. She doesn't have anything exciting going on because she struggles with social anxiety. Women who have a lot of rejection, obviously, if you've been rejected thousands of times, if you've been made fun of hundreds of times for all these random things, of course you don't want to socialize with people. Of course you're going to have social anxiety. So it's almost like this self-fulfilling prophecy. Social rejection leads to social anxiety, which causes her to self-isolate. So women who have this femcel mindset, they're very isolated from other women. They're isolated from men. And so that's why sometimes when these femcels in your family, they try to give you social advice, it sounds way off. You're like, what are you talking about? Like, white people are not this magical group of people that are going to come and save you. Like, why are you giving all these fantasy talking points? Well, it's because she's been socially isolated. So the only social interactions she has are via TV. That doesn't really count, basically. She just watches TV and movies and stuff. And, she just interacts on the internet. These are the women who they don't go outside and touch grass because they're too anxious. And they're anxious because they've been socially rejected so many times. And so they just stay inside and wonder and contemplate and fantasize about what it would be like if they had a different body. They fantasize about what it would be like if they looked like you, or if they could start over. A lot of femcel women, they struggle with shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Oh, I should have been a model. Oh, I would have been cute. I could have lost 100 pounds. I could have grown my hair out. So they struggle with a lot of shoulda, coulda, woulda talking points. A lot of them are living lives of regret. They regret the fact that they didn't take advantage of their youth. And so that's why they want to destroy your youth. They want to destroy younger women because they feel like it helps even the playing field to see other women fail. These are the women who keep track of your weight. They will try to keep track of your weight. They want to sabotage you when you're on a diet. They keep track of every pound you gain. They're pointing out every pimple you have. Why are they doing that? Well, they're doing it because they have experienced thousands of instances of micro rejection, so much so to the point where they think rejection is normal. So that's why they keep rejecting you. This is why some of you guys have these mothers or sisters or family members who are constantly pointing out your flaws. Well, it's because that's all she has experienced, is people pointing out her flaws. She thinks it's normal for people to make fun of her skin tone. She thinks it's normal for people to hate her features. She thinks it's normal for people to make fun of her afro hair texture. So that's why she's making fun of yours. She doesn't realize that she is so entrenched in this social hell to the point where she's actually projecting it onto others. So they live in this social hell. They live in a psychological hell. And most of the time they've given up hope. And so that's why they get so triggered and ticked off when they see you filled with hope, filled with life. Have you ever been at work and there will be a lady there who literally gets mad when you start laughing? They get mad when you guys are at the desk chatting it up or having small talk. They literally get pissed off by other people's happiness. Why? Well, it's because her happiness went away a long time ago. And so now she's in such an emotional hell to the point where even laughter is like nails on a chalkboard to her. She just can't allow other people to have fun in her presence. She can't allow other people to enjoy their life or enjoy their privileges. Anytime she comes around, if she's having a bad day, everybody's having a bad day. That's one of the ways that femcells act out. It's because they have a lot of inner turmoil. They've experienced a lot of rejection. And so they literally get upset. They're like, no, I got rejected. So it's not fair that she gets to feel accepted. It's not fair that she gets to feel validated. If I don't get validation, neither can you. If nobody validates my skin tone, I won't validate your skin tone. If nobody validates my beauty, I'm not validating your beauty. I don't care if you're my daughter. I don't care if you're my sister. I don't care if you're my coworker. I never got the validation I wanted, and so therefore you can't have the validation that you want because that's not fair. That's one of their overarching complaints. Women who have this femcel mindset, their overarching complaint is that's not fair. It's not fair that I was born like this. It's not fair that society is like this. It's not fair that the isms exist. It's not fair that all of these social constructs are holding me back. So they feel like their own body is like a prison. A lot of women who are femcells, they hate their own body because, their body, how they look or their personalities and stuff, it's a prison for them because it caused them to be rejected. So the way she's thinking of herself is, wait a minute, I've been rejected for my body type. I've been rejected for my skin tone. I've been rejected for my facial features, my afro, whatever, my ethnicity, my race, my age. And so who do you think you are to be accepted for those things? Who do you think you are to live a better life than me? Another thing about women who have kind of this femcel mindset is because of all the micro rejection they have faced, they want to expose the women who are high status. They want to try to expose them so that they can feel rejected. So these are the women who are obsessed with what kind of makeup you're wearing. They always want to call out when another woman's wearing makeup. They want to call out, oh, she's using a filter. Oh, well, she put on concealer. That's why you can't see her acne scars. Oh, well, she got a boob job. She got a BBL. She got a facelift. She got a tummy tuck after she had the baby. She's on Ozempic. That's the only way that she got skinny. So they have this bitterness towards other women, but also there is a bitterness towards dating and relationships. So here's the thing about being like a quote unquote femcel. I believe that nothing is really black and white. A lot of these social constructs, like being a quote-unquote femcel, that's more of a social construct. So it exists on a spectrum. I believe that there's actually a spectrum of femcells. You've got the super extreme ones, and then you've got some that just kind of struggle with the mindset, maybe because they were raised by like femcel mothers and stuff. So every woman you encounter who has this femcel mindset, they're not all going to be the same. Women with the femcel mindset are not a monolith. So one of the manifestations of the femcel mindset is you will see a lot of actual bitterness towards dating and relationships. And I'm not talking about like, oh, you're just decentering men and getting out of codependency. No, I'm talking about actual bitterness, like the actual definition of the word, where you're literally resentful. You're resentful against any woman who does get in a relationship. Have you ever been around a friend where as soon as you get male attention, she gets pissed off at you? She doesn't want to talk to you anymore. She doesn't want to hang out with you because you got flowers from Scott and she never got that. So once again, you're triggering her rejection wounds. So that's an example of actual bitterness against like dating and relationships. So it goes deeper than just saying, oh, I don't want to date or whatever. No, because The difference between like decentering men and an actual femcel is the women who decenter men, we have the exact opposite problem of a femcel. So the femcel has a lack of male validation. They have a lack of men pursuing them. For a lot, like in my case, when it comes to decentering men, I have the exact opposite problem. Too much male attention, too much male validation that I don't even want. So yes, I need to decenter them as much as possible so I can weed out 99% of the ones who are going to waste my time. But to a woman who has more of this kind of femcel mindset, when it comes to decentering men, she can't even fathom that. A lot of these women, they feel like that's impossible to decenter men because I've lived my whole life centering men's opinions of me, and it caused me to hate myself because, black men, they didn't like my skin tone, they didn't like my afro, they didn't like my face. So now I don't like my face because men didn't like my face. So when you say decenter men, what does that even mean? Because my whole identity, all of my insecurities are male-centered. Have you ever noticed that? All of a femcel's insecurities are actually male-centered. In a lot of cases, they are. She's insecure about her body. Why? Because men didn't like her body. She's insecure about her skin complexion. Why? Because men didn't like her complexion. She's insecure about her hair texture. Why? Because men didn't lust over celebrities with her hair texture. She's insecure about her relationship. Why? Because she views a relationship with a man as a form of status. So those are all male-centered insecurities. But women who have this femcel experience, they have a bitterness towards dating and relationships in general. So these are the women who, let's say you're getting married or something, or, somebody's just, they're getting paid, they're a sugar baby. They don't even have to be married. Maybe she's a sugar baby. Maybe she's an OnlyFans girl. Maybe she is profiting off of the male gaze in one way or another, whether it's romantically, it could be financially, it could be something as simple as you receiving a compliment at a bar. And their resentfulness will pop up because they will start saying these talking points like, oh, well, he's only talking to you because you're pretty. Love is only a fairy tale for pretty girls. It's not for people like me. Men don't want real women. They want fantasy versions of women. So he only likes you because you fit his fetish. You fit his fantasy. And then they'll say things like, nobody will actually love me. So they struggle with worthiness. They struggle with feeling unworthy of love. Deep down inside, that's their struggle. Or they will start to have like a legit hatred towards certain groups of men. So let's talk about the femcel spectrum for a minute. I think that the more extreme femcel mindset, these would be the ones that are like, they legit do not like any man at all, ever. Doesn't matter his race, doesn't matter if he's a family member, they just, they don't want to be around them at all. And then I think there's another part of the spectrum where maybe they specifically hate one group of men or one type of men, one type of man. So these are the women who say, oh, I don't like pretty boys, or I don't like, handsome men. They have a bitterness against men who are handsome because they have been rejected by handsome men. They have an anger against black men because they have been rejected by black men. They have an anger against the jocks or the athletic men, the tall men, whatever, because they have been rejected by them. So once again, it comes from them not being chosen. So she was a pick-me. She wanted to get picked by the black guy when she was younger, or she wanted to get picked by the white guy. She wanted to get picked by whoever, and she didn't. And so her coping mechanism, she uses anger as a coping mechanism. She uses anger as a way to lash out. That's one of the top ways that a femcel will lash out. She will use her anger as a weapon. Were you raised by a femcel mother or grandmother who randomly gave you a whooping when you didn't do anything, but maybe you were wearing a cute outfit that day? So then she accuses you of being fast. Then you get a whooping, you get slapped in the face, you get humiliated. Simply because you are desirable, even if you didn't recognize it as a child. She recognized you as desirable, and so that's why she had to use her anger as a weapon against you. She used her anger as a way to lash out against you by giving you whoopings. Or, some mothers, they might like take away your makeup, or they specifically, they don't want you. They're basically scared. They're threatened by femininity. That's another aspect of the femcel. They're threatened by femininity. They get angry and resentful at the femininity they can't have. So that's why they're focused on your femininity. That's why they're angry. They'll be like, oh, well, light-skinned women are viewed as more feminine. By who? That's your opinion. You think light-skinned women are viewed as more feminine, and you're angry at the femininity of those light-skinned women. So they have this mindset where femininity is a competition because, of course, it's all male-centered. They're extremely male-centered. So it's a competition because if you have feminine privilege, you're more likely to get positive male attention. But a lot of women who have this femcel mindset, they've never been able to manifest the type of male interactions they wanted. So they've never been able to be a sugar baby. They've never been able to be a wife. They've never been able to be a girlfriend. Whatever it is that they wanted out of a man, they've never been able to get it. Emotionally, financially, or in terms of status. They wanted a family. They wanted a husband, but instead they got a baby daddy. So whatever it is they were trying to manifest with a man, they failed. So a lot of women who are femcels, they're really just failed manifestors. They failed. Their manifestation was not powerful. Their manifestation skills with men were not powerful enough to get them what they wanted. And so that's what causes the resentment. So you'll hear these types of women complaining about not being chosen. You'll hear them complaining about being invisible. You'll hear them constantly talking about how badly they've been abused. A lot of mothers, grandmothers, aunties, they will abuse you, and then they will say, oh, well, when I was younger, I had it way worse than you. So basically, they're minimizing your abuse. They're saying that what you're going through is not that bad because I'm at the bottom. I'm further towards the bottom than you. So shut up, don't complain because you have more privilege than me. So they're constantly in the oppression Olympics. They feel like they are the most oppressed. They feel like they are at the bottom. Not to mention the fact that a lot of them struggle with being hopeless. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever been around that type of woman? She struggles with being hopeless. This is the type of woman who feels like self-improvement is pointless. They feel like, why should I improve myself? I'm already genetically cursed. I will already never be able to make it to the same heights as a light-skinned woman. I'm already never going to have as much status as a white woman. I'm already at the bottom, and I'm beneath women who are skinnier than me. So they have this hopelessness that starts to creep in, and that's actually very scary because you don't want to be around the type of woman who's envious and has nothing to lose. You don't want to be around that type of woman. But I would say hopelessness, that's a more advanced femcel. That's the more extreme version. So they start to feel like no matter what I do, I will always be alone. No matter what I do, I will always be rejected. No matter what I do, I'll never be good enough. So that's actually more of a hopeless mindset that starts to settle in. And so sometimes you can see this creep out with women around you because whenever you achieve something, she always nitpicks at it. It's never good enough. Oh, you got into college? Oh, that's not good. You didn't graduate with honors. Oh, you graduated with honors? You weren't the valedictorian. Oh, well, you made it on the cheer squad? You didn't make varsity. So they're projecting that onto you. No matter what she does, it's not good enough because that's been her life experience. She's received thousands of micro rejections. And so that's why she's trying to give you micro rejections because she wants you to be in that same social hell that she's in. She's in a social hell. So she's very threatened by your social status. Believe it or not, femcels deeply desire social status. And this is pretty normal though. As human beings, obviously, we want to be loved and respected and validated. We want to feel like we are cherished. We want to feel like we are worth something, like we are contributing to society. So look up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. A femcel woman is not a self-actualized woman. It's the exact opposite. So, but her problem though is that not only is she leveled down, but she doesn't know how to level up. She doesn't know where to begin, or she doesn't believe she can because she views her own body as a handicap. She views her skin complexion as a handicap, her afro as a handicap, her nose, her features, her weight, whatever it is, where she came from is a handicap. And so she has that hopeless mindset. No matter what I do, I'll never be good enough. Another talking point of women who struggle with a lot of rejection is my life is harder than everyone else's. Have you ever noticed that? It's like, no matter how many troubles you've been through, oh, mine were always worse. Nobody understands me. That's one of the biggest overarching themes that I've seen in all the femcel content I've ever studied. There's always this overarching talking point of nobody understands how hard I have it. No one understands the trauma I've been through. No one understands the amount of pain I've been through. Femcells are defined by their pain. They are defined by the micro rejections they've experienced from men. So all of that, all it took was a couple hundred black men rejecting them when they were a child. All it took was not getting asked to prom or whatever. And they've internalized that. They've actually made pain the core of their identity. So you know how I talk about decentering men? Once you decenter men, you also decenter the pain that men caused. But, nobody's talked about that on YouTube because a lot of creators struggle with only scratching the surface. So decentering men will actually help these women who are quote unquote femcells, because once they stop prioritizing men's opinions, then they won't internalize the insults they receive from men. But a lot of women, they will also try to either decenter men, or they will try to become religious in hopes that's like their last ditch effort to attract a man. So it's not genuine, obviously. But that's their last hope. That's their desperate attempt to try to attract a man once and for all. Like, oh, let me convert to this religion, or let me decenter men, or divest or whatever. Divesting is really decentering black men. So let me announce to everybody that I'm decentering black men. But then as soon as a black man comes into my vicinity, I will instantly date him. Why do they do that? Why do they say that they don't care about men, or why do they have this bitterness against men? But then once that man gives them attention, suddenly they flip. Well, it's because she was a femcell. She was actually extremely male-centered. She was a pick-me who never got picked. And so once a man came around and started dangling that carrot of validation, he tells her, oh, you're beautiful. I like your afro. I like your chocolate skin tone. That's when you see these women melt and all their boundaries go away. All their standards go in the trash. So this is how you see these women ending up with these dusty guys. It's because she is so deeply starved for validation to the point where even a breadcrumb, they're basically chasing after the breadcrumbs of social validation. And so that's why you see the mom who's sleeping with her daughter's boyfriend. That's a breadcrumb. So you're telling me out of all the 4 billion men in this world, you just had to choose your daughter's boyfriend? No, there is something psychologically wrong with you. That's why you're doing that. A lot of femcells, they feel very powerless, so they will do anything to feel social power because they know how powerful it is to be beautiful. They've seen it. All the other women in their family were the pretty girls. I talked about this before. Does your mom have sisters who hate her? Are you sure that your mom is the bad person, or were her sisters potentially femcells who were jealous of your mom because your mom was the pretty one? So you want to think about this. When it comes to the generations in your family, your mother, your aunties, your grandma and them, why don't they get along? Do you come from a family where a lot of the sisters don't get along? Well, do you think part of that could be because of the male gaze? Do you think that maybe your mom's sister slept with her boyfriend or something because the sister was extremely jealous and she felt more validated to know that she has the same sexual access to a man that her sister has access to? A lot of women who are deeply entrenched in this femcell mindset, remember, she's so desperate for sex. She's so desperate for emotional validation, so desperate for white male validation, black male validation, for handsome male validation. Have you ever met a woman who sleeps with every guy who's cute? All he has to do is be cute. If he's hot, her panties are dropping. If he's attractive, she's going to be deriding him. She doesn't care about his marital status. Or if he's rich. If he's rich, she's going to throw herself at him. She's going to desperately chase behind him. If he's got a little bit of fame, a little bit of clout, all her standards go out the window. She will let him abuse her. She will let him talk to her crazy. She will let him do or say whatever. So all of her boundaries are gone. Because when it comes to rich men, she's a femcell. When it comes to white men, she's a femcell. When it comes to black men, she's a femcell. So that's why I say that being a femcell actually exists on a spectrum. It's not just, oh, well, she's very extreme and she's never had any male attention. No, some women, they only have a femcell mindset when it comes to one particular type of man. She's a femcell when it comes to young men because, when she was younger, she never got attention from men in their 20s. When she was in her 20s, she was ugly. So she never got attention from men in their 20s. That's why when she has a daughter who has a boyfriend in his 20s, she wants his validation because she is trying to heal her inner child. She's trying to heal her inner version of herself that was in her 20s. She's got wounds from that time period in her life. She has emotional wounds of rejection from when she was in her 20s. And so she's trying to relive that now. She's trying to rewrite her story by sleeping with these men. She is trying to revive her self-esteem through sex. A lot of women do this. We accuse men of doing this, but women do this too. They will use men as their rehabilitation center. Oh, I've been rejected by black men, so let me go and fuck 25 white men. And then, that's going to be my self-esteem rehab. The fact that I've been dicked down by 25 Scots, now my self-esteem is restored. So these are the women who have an extreme external locus of control. They use men or they use sex or they desperately chase after that stuff because they're hoping it will rehabilitate their self-image. They're trying to build their self-image. They're trying to convince themselves that they're desirable. It's not just about the man. It's about her convincing herself that she's just as beautiful as a 25-year-old. That's why you got the mother sleeping with the boyfriend of the daughter. She wants to convince herself, oh, I'm just as pretty as my daughter. I'm prettier than my daughter. I'm better than my daughter. So it's this sick, twisted mindset where every woman is her competition. Women with a femcel mindset, they are emotionally starved. They're sexually starved when it comes to their type. So this is the difference between femcel and incel. And this is why I say that, technically you're right. Femcel is not the perfect word to use, but it's just the closest word. But the difference is that a femcel type of woman, maybe she only got sexual attention from the men that she did not want. So it's worthless to her. A lot of women have higher standards than men, okay? So we don't care about some dusties giving us attention. No, some women, they're femcels when it comes to rich men. That's who they've always wanted. They always wanted the rich guy. They always wanted the white guy. They always wanted the tall, buff guy. They always wanted the football player, whoever it is. So she's a femcel in that area. She's not a femcel in every single area, just when it comes to white men or when it comes to whatever man she puts on a pedestal. By the way, every human being puts someone or something on a pedestal. Everybody is a pick-me for someone or something. So don't try to come in my comment section saying, oh, well, I've never done that. I've never been a pick-me for anything. Yes, you have. You're a pick-me for your paycheck. You're a pick-me for beauty. You're a pick-me for status. Women will stand in line at Sephora just to get a foundation. Okay, you're a pick-me when it comes to beauty. And that's okay. Just be honest with yourself. I'm a pick-me when it comes to having an online business, having money, having financial status, having social status in general. And I don't give a fuck. I can admit that. But a lot of women who struggle with the femcel mindset, they also have a hard time admitting to themselves that they are a pick-me. They're a pick-me for rich men. They're a pick-me for white men. They're a pick-me for hot men. So that's why their standards go out the window. But some of them, they will use sex with men as a form of emotional rehab because they're trying to heal their emotional wounds. So what they're doing is they're trying to use their sexual encounters to heal their wounds about self-worth. They want to sleep with this guy because it helps her to not feel rejected. It helps her to not feel abandoned. So for those 2 minutes that he's inside of her, she feels pretty for those 2 minutes. It helps her to not feel lonely. For those 2 seconds when he's holding her, then, she doesn't feel lonely. So a lot of femcel women, they actually equate sex to love. They think that sex, it makes them feel lovable, even though we know that it's not. So it's an extreme external locus of control. That's what it is. They have an external locus of control, which is why they're seeking external validation, whether it's sexual validation, it could be emotional validation, it could be financial validation. Remember that video I made where a man was flirting with a woman at the bar, so he handed her $10, and then her friend came in and snatched the $10? Well, she was receiving financial validation. So that woman that snatched the money, she was jealous because she was a femcel in terms of financial validation. She never received financial validation from a man. She got jealous because her friend was having, she was basically attracting provision. The friend was magnetic, so she was attracting money just by standing there in the bar. That's why the man came up and walked up to her to give her money. So when I use the term femcel, I know it's not the perfect word to describe it, but that's what I mean. I basically mean a woman who has been starved emotionally, sexually, or maybe financially. So these are the women who complain a lot about dusties or, oh my God, my boyfriends were all dusty. Oh my God, everybody's dusty. My dad's a dusty. Grandpa's a dusty. My brother's a dusty. My uncles are dusty. My life was dusty. My mom's a dusty. I'm like, oh my God, okay. Just admit you've been financially starved and be done. Just admit it. You've been financially starved. That's why you're jealous of the sugar babies or the kept women or whatever they call it. The women where the guy is paying her bills, or the women where a guy walks up to her in a bar and hands her money. So they've been starved in one area or another. So they deeply desired that sort of validation and they didn't receive it. So what they will do is they will seek validation by being desirable. So for example, if a man desires you sexually, it makes you feel like, oh, I'm attractive, I'm wanted, I'm enough. But in the femcel's case, if she's been feeling rejected or invisible or lonely or emotionally neglected, a lot of femcel's, they have dealt with extreme emotional neglect. By the way, my theory is that narcissism starts with being emotionally neglected. I don't think that people are just born narcissists. No, I think that that comes from being deeply neglected, having that deep-seated emotional wound where you've always been neglected, you've been ignored. How you feel has been ignored. And so that's why you became a social justice warrior, because you always felt like you didn't have a voice. You didn't have a voice at home. You didn't have a voice in the classroom. You didn't have a voice in high school. You didn't have a voice in your friend group. You didn't have a voice with men. You didn't have a voice amongst black people, amongst white people, amongst your job, whoever. And so being a social justice warrior, that's the one way to finally have a voice. It's because you got that wound of emotional neglect. You've been extremely neglected. So now you're essentially throwing a tantrum as an adult. So you're throwing this tantrum, this emotional tantrum. Have you ever met women who lash out? These are the women who slash faces. They will destroy your car. They will destroy your makeup. They will steal your makeup. Have you ever had a best friend who starts stealing your shit? She steals your hair weave. She steals your wigs. She will steal the most random, cringy things. Like, why would you steal someone's underwear? Why would you steal, like, random, intimate pieces of their identity? Well, it's a way of lashing out emotionally. She felt neglected. She never got to have cute makeup. She never felt safe enough in her own femininity to have pretty underwear or to wear a wig or weave or whatever, beauty enhancements. And so when it comes to her stealing from you, it's not just about jealousy. She wants your actual identity. It's a deep-seated envy. She feels like by stealing from you, she's taking back her power. Stealing makes her feel powerful. This is why you got the women who quote unquote steal your man or whatever, or I know that a man can't be stolen, but you know what I mean? Like the mothers, the jealous mothers who sleep with their daughters' husbands and stuff, or the sister who tries to sleep with the husband, because in her mind, she feels like, oh, I stole him from her. And so therefore I'm powerful and I'm seductive because I was able to use my manipulation tactics to quote unquote steal someone or something from the woman who was supposed to be more powerful than me. So it's like they have this emotional void. So they're trying to fill that emotional void. So they will fill it through sex. They will try to fill it through anger. You know, they'll use their anger as a weapon. So by beating you up, that is her therapy. Her abusing you is her therapy. That's why you got these abusive mothers, sisters, the women who just randomly cuss you out in the grocery store. Remember the video I showed of the woman in the beauty supply? She just came in looking pretty, minding her own business. Yes, she was plus size. You know the people who think that if you're a fat, light-skinned girl, oh my God, you must be so ugly. Well, that girl was big and she just happened to be light-skinned and pretty, but she got cussed out. Why? It's because those women had a femcel mindset. They felt emotionally neglected. They felt invisible, which is why they lashed out. They used their anger as a weapon against that random woman in the store. Why do some women get so angry? Well, it's because anger makes you feel powerful. Like on a psychological level, anger can make some women feel powerful. And I've noticed culturally, you know, in the Black community, culturally, a lot of people in the Black community have struggled with using their anger as their main source of power, or violence in the case of a lot of men and some of the women too. Using anger and violence as a way to feel powerful. So, you know, when I bully the pretty girl, when I punch her in the face, when I yell at her in the store, when I cut her off on the freeway, have you ever dealt with extreme road rage? Like these are the women who get out of their cars. You know, they punch your car or they hit your car on purpose. That's an example of using anger as a weapon. Why is she doing that? Well, it's because she's been emotionally neglected. Nobody ever cared about her anger. Nobody ever cared about her pain. Anger is a result of pain. That's why people get angry. It's because they experienced emotional pain. So the greater the anger, the greater the emotional pain. So that's why you got women having this extreme road rage, stopping in the middle of the parking lot. She could be black, white, doesn't matter the race. But it's like that's why you've got this extreme anger that some women express, because they've had extreme pain. So if they're lashing out at you when you just walked into the store, yeah, that's how much emotional pain you caused her just by being beautiful. Isn't that crazy? That's how powerful your beauty is in her eyes. That's how powerful your skin tone is in her eyes. That's how powerful your proximity to whiteness or blackness is in her eyes. To the point where all you did was walk in the room and boom, she's angry. She's emotionally dysregulated. So as a way to regulate her self-esteem, she will use her anger as a weapon against you. She will lash out. This is what those angry emails are at work. They're using their anger as a weapon. They want to get you fired because, they don't want you to be financially stable. They want you to suffer. They want you to be in poverty. That's literally why they're doing that. They're using their anger as a way to prove to themselves, I'm powerful. I'm so powerful now because I sent an email to all these people, kind of exposing her as being a bad worker. I'm more powerful now. So they're using their anger as a weapon. They're using their anger as a stepping stool against you. Or in the case of cheating, have you ever noticed like some men, they cheat on you to humble you, but women will do this as well. They will try to cheat with like I said, they'll try to cheat with your boyfriend or something. Obviously, both of them are trash, but it's like they really will. They'll try to cheat with your boyfriend, or they try to flirt with the same guy as you, or they try to flaunt their body as a way to establish dominance and power over you. For example, if you're skinny, maybe you have flat boobs and a flat butt. Your friend who has a big booty and big boobs, she will try to flaunt that in front of you. Like, oh, well, I have curves. Well, I actually have boobs. I actually have a butt. And the same can go in the opposite direction, where maybe if you're bigger, a skinny friend will try to throw it in your face. Oh, well, I'm skinny. I look better than you because I'm skinny. Anytime a woman starts giving hierarchy thinking talking points, beware and run away, because that's not your friend. Because true friends don't view each other as being on a hierarchy. True friends, they don't view beauty or your body type as a competition. A real friend is not going to try to compete with you. But for women who have this femcel mindset where they've been neglected by people, they've been invisible, it is a competition. It's a competition for visibility. It's a competition for validation. It's a competition for getting like self-esteem. They literally view self-esteem as a competition. That's why they get mad. They're not mad. They're not just mad at the fact that you're pretty. They're mad at the fact that you're pretty. So literally your self-esteem has become a competition at that point. They want to have higher self-esteem than you. That's why they want you to get fired, because they know that financial instability destroys self-esteem. They know that rejection destroys self-esteem. That's why they want you to be fired. Being fired means you've been rejected from working here. You've been rejected from this job. We are rejecting your paycheck. We are rejecting your position. They want you to feel rejected so that it can destroy your self-esteem. And you will see some femcels do this with men as well. Like if a man is more attractive than her, because remember, she views attractiveness as a competition. So if a man is more attractive than her, she will make comments about him being gay. Like she'll automatically say he's gay or he's feminine or, he looks too pretty. Oh, he spends more time in the mirror than me. He's feeling himself more than me. They'll make comments like that because she's trying to reclaim her power over rejection. Historically, she has been rejected by men that look like that. She's been rejected by the model-looking men. She's been rejected by white men. She's been rejected by black men. And so she will go out of her way to reject that black man first before he can reject her. So it's a form of emotional protection, but it's also a way of reclaiming her power. She feels more powerful now because she's like, I rejected you first before you could reject me. I don't even date black men. I don't even date pretty boys. I don't even date rich men. I don't date whatever. And another thing too, like with the femcel types of women who maybe they spent their life struggling with being a femcel and then now they're finally desirable. So maybe something changed. Maybe they lost weight or they got some confidence, whatever. They learned how to dress. They learned how to do their makeup for their skin complexion. They learned how to do their afro so it looks attractive. Maybe she struggled with being a femcel most of her life. So sometimes If a woman has felt abandoned or cheated on or discarded, she might seek out new sexual attention as a way of saying, see, I'm still wanted. This last guy didn't break me because now I got a new guy. So she's using sexual attention as a way to rewrite her own story. That's her trying to empower herself, but I don't think that's a good way to empower yourself because it's an external locus of control. Sexual attention should be a form of micro-validation, in my opinion. Micro-validation, not major validation like, oh my God, this is how I get my self-esteem. No. But in the case of women who used to be femcels or they're struggling with it or whatever, those are the women that you will see throwing themselves at men sexually. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever been around a woman who is quote unquote ugly or not attractive? You know, she has bad hygiene, whatever, but she's the most sexual out of everybody. She like throws herself at anybody and everybody. She throws herself at everybody white, throws herself at everybody black. She throws herself at all the men in the office. Why? Well, it's because she's trying to feel powerful. She wants to use that sexual attention from men to feel powerful. Or, you know, in the case of the women who are the side chick and then they're like super happy about being the side chick, they brag about being the side chick. Well, it's because she's in a competition with the wife. She's in a competition with the girlfriend or whatever. So she feels like, haha, I'm more powerful than you because I slept with that man. I slept with the man that you committed to, so now I'm more powerful. So they play all these power games in their head. They're in a one-sided competition with everybody in their head. And another thing too, with a lot of femcels, they actually confuse sexual validation with love. So a lot of women who grew up without emotional nurturing, so they grew up with toxic mothers. I talked about this. The toxic mothers that did not emotionally nurture them. Women who grew up with these types of mothers, sometimes they associate attention with love, or they confuse attention with love. Like, oh, this guy looked at me and said I'm pretty, he must love me. Oh, well, this guy, you know, these are the women who fall for the breadcrumbs. It's because they've been emotionally neglected. So even breadcrumbs of emotional availability, that makes her like the guy a lot because she's not even used to getting she's not even used to getting a hello. She's not even used to being acknowledged or spoken to. So that's why you have the femcels who fall for breadcrumbs. They fall for breadcrumbs from the white man because she's not used to getting acknowledgement from white men in any capacity. So him simply saying hello, she's excited now. Him simply holding the door, oh my gosh, she's fangirling now. Him liking her picture on Instagram, oh, she's bragging about it now. She screenshotted it, she's showing off, oh, hey, look, Scott liked my photo on Instagram. So those are the women who fall for the breadcrumbs, the ones who they're confusing attention with love, they're confusing sexual validation with love. And that's because they're emotionally hungry, they're emotionally starved. Have you ever heard the term thirsty? She's thirsty. Well, what does that mean? It means that she has never, her emotional hunger, she's never been fulfilled, basically. She's hungry, her stomach is growling for attention. You know, she's got this deep-seated longing for attention. She's thirsty. She's parched. Nobody has ever showered her with love. So that's why this, you know, one drop of love, one drop of attention, she's confusing it because she's more desperate. Think about when you're actually physically hungry or physically thirsty. You're going to be pretty desperate. You're more likely to eat the low-quality foods if you're starving. You're more likely to drink soda if you're desperately thirsty and you don't have access to water. So the women who are thirsty, they've never been showered with love. That's why they're thirsty. That's why they're so thirsty. They've never been showered with attention. They've never been showered with validation. They've never been showered with compliments. So that's why they spend their lives fighting from the abyss, shouting from the abyss, or twerking from the abyss, throwing their asses in the air so they can get just a glance. They just want Scott to glance at them. They just want Tyrone to glance at them. And that's enough. Have you ever wondered why some women settle? Well, it's because they struggled with being a femcel. That's why they settle. Because in their mind, something is better than nothing, even if it's low quality. So, you know, even if I'm a cougar, even if I'm 55 and rich and paying all the bills of this 25-year-old man, something is better than nothing. So at least I got him. I feel validated because I was able to attract this 25-year-old man, even if I had to attract him with my money. Have you ever noticed that? The types of women that pay for a boyfriend? They'll have this bum, you know, this guy who's a complete bum, and they'll pay for everything. Why? Well, it's because she was a femcel her whole life. And so now that she has money, it's very similar to men who were incels their whole lives, and now that they have money, they have access to the opposite sex. Not because of their appearance, not because of their personality, only because of their money. So she used her money as a bridge to finally get the male validation she wanted because she couldn't receive that validation in any other way. And when it comes to sex, a lot of women with the femcel mindset, they have a lot of sexual wounds. So for example, maybe they've never felt sexually desirable, or maybe they have trauma when it comes to sex. Maybe they've only ever been R-worded. They've only ever been SA'd. They've never had somebody, consensually want them, or they've never had somebody want to sleep with them because of their inner qualities. Like, hey, I like you on the inside and outside. So maybe they have the trauma of only being wanted for their booty. Have you ever heard guys say, it's not your beauty, it's your booty? Like saying that basically you're not pretty, or like, that's not why I like you. I'm only here because you're throwing it at me. So a lot of women who have this femcel mindset, they have struggled with that as well, the sexual rejection. They have the sexual wound of not feeling fulfilled. Their sex lives are not emotionally fulfilling. So, by the way, there are levels to this shit. And maybe I'll talk about it on Patreon because I can't really say the word sex a lot on YouTube. But yeah, there are different layers of sexual wounds they can have where it's like, I never felt like a guy truly wanted me for who I was. I felt like he only wanted me because I have a big butt or because I do some fetish that he likes or whatever. So that's why a lot of women have that insecurity about being fetishized. It's because they've never not been fetishized. They've only ever been wanted because they have a big butt or because they acted out, they did some sexual act that the guy wanted or whatever. So he was just using her as a form of temporary escape. So she was the quote unquote cheap hoe that he came to whenever he was feeling down. So a lot of women, they have that insecurity. Not to mention the fact that society often tells women that our worth is tied to our desirability. So a lot of women with this femcel mindset, they have struggled with always feeling worthless. Like, oh, I'm worthless because of my skin tone. I'm worthless because I'm not pretty. I'm worthless because of XYZ. So they feel like losing attention means that she is losing her worth. And so they will use sex as their tool to get attention. It's not because they actually just wanted to fuck 10,000 guys. No, it's because that's their only tool of getting attention. That's the only way they can get any breadcrumb of attention. They don't know how to get attention. They don't get attention for their talents. They don't get attention for their beauty. They don't get attention for being hardworking. They don't get attention for being a good person. The only way that they've ever been able to receive attention is by desperately throwing themselves at men. It's by being loud. That's another thing. Being hella loud. Those women that interrupt everybody during the conversation? I will cut off a woman who does that. You're at brunch, you're out at dinner, she won't let anybody at the table talk. Well, that's a woman who's been validation starved. She's starved. She's so starved for attention that she is now desperate. She's desperate to be seen. She's desperate for visibility. So much so to the point where you can't even speak. She loves to hear herself talk. Have you ever been around somebody like that? Why? Why does she love to hear herself talk and she keeps rambling and, gets mad when people don't listen to her? Well, it's because that is one of her core emotional wounds. She's never been heard. A part of being validated is being seen and also being heard. So she never felt like her voice was heard. She never had a voice. So the only time that she feels she can express her voice is when she's interrupting you, basically. Or at the meeting. Have you ever been around coworkers where at the meeting they always have to ask some dumbass question. They always have to drag on the meeting, or they want to have meetings. It'll be a total waste of time, but they want to go to the conference room and have a 2-hour meeting just so they can talk. Well, that person has the core emotional wound of not being heard. They don't feel heard. They don't feel like their voice is valuable. And so they will try to force that upon others. They'll try to force you to listen to them. Have you ever been around a woman where they get mad when you have other friends? They get mad when you have other voices in your life. They get mad when you have other influences in your life. They get mad when you subscribe to other YouTube channels. Why? It's because she has the trauma of not having been heard. She has the trauma of nobody listening to her, nobody giving a fuck about what she has to say. And so that's why she gets triggered when you have another friend group or when you have other influences in your life. A lot of men feel this way. Have you ever been around a man where he just wants to get on his soapbox. He wants to talk about Trump and politics and conspiracies and religion or whatever. He's never been heard. Nobody gave a fuck about what he had to say. That's why he's posting 25 times on Facebook, because nobody cared. He's desperately trying to get attention for being heard, as opposed to simply just, building his self-esteem or earning that attention. That's another thing. The women who struggle with this femcel mindset, they're desperate for attention. They're desperate to be heard. They're trying to self-soothe their deep emotional wounds through external sources. So when it comes to using sex as their validation tool, they want to feel wanted. They want to feel powerful, valuable, to feel seen, to feel loved, even if it's only for a moment. So that's why you have some women lashing out, yelling at people at the grocery store, shouting and cussing, dancing on tables at an inappropriate time, at a random restaurant, shaking their asses, walking into restaurants naked. I don't know if you guys have seen stuff like that. I've seen stuff like that where they're doing that as a form of protest. So they're using their social justice warrioring as a form of protest, as a way to be seen and heard. So they get more and more extreme. This is where you also get the abusive mothers from. So they're whooping you when you wore your makeup. They gave you a whooping. They slapped you in the face. They destroyed your makeup. They chopped off your hair, because that was them lashing out. They wanted to feel powerful. It made her feel powerful to cut that shit off. It made her feel powerful to chop off 8 inches of your hair at the salon. It made her feel powerful to burn and fry up your hair with the bleach. It made her feel powerful to give you a whooping when you were a little girl to try to destroy your self-esteem. So these are the core emotional wounds of women who struggle with this femcel mindset. It does exist on a spectrum. So, some of them are going to be slightly like a femcel. Some of them are going to be very extreme to the point where they lash out a lot. So the more she lashes out, the more extreme her femcel struggles are. Because incels and femcels, it's really just they're people who have not been seen, heard, validated, or wanted in the way that they desired. So yeah, the more extreme they are with lashing out, the more deep their emotional wounds are. But what do you ladies think? Were you raised by a femcel mother? Do you have family members like this? Have you had coworkers like this? Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.